So I have with me today Dr. Stephen Chance, who's the CEO and co-founder of Oxford Brain Diagnostics. So Oxford Brain Diagnostics is a University of Oxford spin-off company that has developed a new way to analyze brain scans that aims to improve dementia diagnosis and prognosis, so prediction of how someone might change over time. We've been working in collaboration with Oxford Brain Diagnostics to help them obtain funding, where we were awarded a large NIHR grant to help develop a clinical validation study and put together the relevant documentation, obtain the regulatory approvals, and also to complete a study setup, which we're doing at the moment. And we're soon to start recruiting to a multi-center national trial to test their technology. So, Stephen, thank you for chatting to me today. I wonder if you could just give a quick overview of how Oxford Brain Diagnostics began and the technology that you've developed.
Sure, yeah, thanks. So, I mean, Oxford Brain Diagnostics basically started as an idea, probably born of frustration, really. I was very much an academic scientist for many years. I did my PhD in Oxford and subsequently continued working there. And the whole time I was working on a combination of MRI scans, but also a lot of microscope analysis, looking at cellular pathology and histology of the brain in various diseases. And of course, at post-mortem, you can see a wealth of information when you look through the microscope at the cellular scale, all kinds of subtle changes early in a disease process and different patterns in different conditions or different variations of diseases such as dementia, which has been our focus. But of course, that's only at post-mortem, which is after the patient's death. So the frustration was that all this information is there, but it seemed to be inaccessible in life when it could be potentially useful to the patient. So I worked in brain imaging as well to try and find a way to gain access to that cellular scale info. I teamed up with my co-founder, Professor Mark Jenkinson, who continues to be in the University of Oxford, and we developed some algorithms. He wrote some basic software, and we conducted some very important early validation studies comparing the histology and the post-mortem with the imaging to develop and prove our algorithms. And so then we registered some patents through Oxford University, and there's a spin-out arm of that university which they sort of held my hand through the process of forming the company. So I ultimately left the university, bringing one of my postdocs with me, and we started the company to commercialize the technology.
Great. So what do you hope the impact of this technology will be?
Well, I guess in short, the bold goal is that the impact we'd like to have is to change the way the world thinks about brain health. For our sort of immediate purposes, we want to enable more efficient drug development and discovery. We want to enable precision medicine towards more personalized patient care in the clinic. But I would like to think of in the future people talking about brain health in the same way that I think that we're all much more aware now of cardiac heart health. Many people, know what an ECG is and have a sense of how to monitor and keep track of their heart health. And I would like to think that, our technology, CDM, would become one of those kinds of regular tests where people would be aware of as a way of monitoring your brain health and all the many other things that would hopefully come with that greater awareness in society.
And what would you say the main challenges that you faced as a startup?
Yes, so of course there's many challenges in that process, and as I said, I didn't start. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said my goals were commercial, were to set up a company. But it was one of those things that kind of emerged partly from meeting people who began to make inquiries about the technology and how we might use it. I think one of the most important things for sure is to find the right people to create the core team in the early stages. So you want people with commercial experience. In my case, that was one of the main things that I lacked. You want complementary skill sets, so people who can develop what you've got as perhaps rudimentary software and algorithms into really a professional system in our running in the cloud, integrating with hospital systems. We've achieved these things now, but this has all come through the phase of being the company and working firmly on the target of commercializing it. Yeah, I mean, I knew how to run a research group before and get grant proposals through, hopefully for some funding and so forth. And obviously we've been successful, which is wonderful with the NIHR. But there's a big gap between the research environment and the real world clinical workspace. So that's what we've really had to tackle.
Yeah. So would you say there are any specific difficulties in linking with the NHS for testing the technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, certainly when it came to linking up with all of you in Southampton, it was in many ways largely by luck and accident, kind of guided by the right intentions. Effectively, members of my team began to go to events, emailing people, going to conferences, including a couple of NHS expos, and it was a case of kind of hard graft to make the contacts and meet the right people, basically.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like a streamlined process and a dedicated unit, such as the technology trials unit, which I've mentioned, who can sort of provide the expertise and support to help innovators move their ideas through the developmental pathway to actually testing, would be a beneficial thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that makes that process smoother and more efficient. I mean, you'll save time and resources. I think at one point the whole team were, spending most of their time doing that sort of emailing, not entirely randomly, but definitely there was a big random element. And you're very dependent on finding motivated individuals. Sometimes there was an innovation champion at a hospital or university, but I think your unit will hopefully systematize this, so it's a much more obvious process, and it will help to kind of reduce the number of wrong starts and dead ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, do you have any advice for others who may have a healthcare technology that they'd like to develop and pursue?
Well, I guess it's difficult to encapsulate all of these things and all of those experiences, but clearly, as you'd expect, be determined, have some good data, but believe in your data if you have good data. Do be willing to share your findings, I think, with people. Don't be too secretive. It certainly takes a lot of momentum to get things off the ground. So usually sharing information is very important. There's a lot of inertia out there. And as I said, I've talked about the team. I mean, people really do invest in people. So you want to build that team that has complementary skills. That will be attractive because then you'll have the core idea or technology, but around that you'll have the skill set to kind of tackle and convince people that you can tackle all the challenges that'll come your way. So I think be persistent, keep knocking on doors, because sooner or later one of those will open.
That's great. Thank you very much.